Alright, so continuing, because my computer, or the program, froze, I'm finishing substitution. This is with linear equations, okay? This is just reviewing what you did in Algebra 1. This is similar to what we're doing today, very similar, but this is still reviewing what you did in Algebra 1. Alright. So I put in the 6x minus 11 for y, because that is what it says over here, y equals, okay? So now what I'm doing is I'm going to solve, because now I'm left with just x. I don't have y anymore, do I? I'm just left with one variable, so now I can solve for that one variable. First thing I'm going to do, see that minus sign right there in front of the x? Only if you have a minus sign in front of a parenthesis, you have to change things. If it was a plus sign, I could just leave it alone. Nothing would change. But because minus signs make things change. So everything inside the parentheses just becomes its opposite. So positive 6x now becomes negative 6x. Negative 11 becomes positive 11. And notice the parentheses are gone when I do that. Alright, so now, since I've distribute basically that minus sign to the 6x and the negative 11, I'm going to combine like terms. My like terms are negative 3x and negative 6x. That gives me negative 9x, and I bring down the plus 11 equals negative 7. Now I have my two-step equation where I will subtract 11 from both sides. That gives me negative 9x is equal to negative 18. And then I'll divide both sides by negative 9, which I saw a lot of people on test want to add 9 to both sides. This is negative 9 times x, correct? How do you undo multiplying by negative 9? Divide by negative 9. That's what I did. So now I get x is equal to positive 2. So let me remind you what we're looking for here. We're looking for the point where these two lines intersect, okay? We're looking for the point where these two lines intersect one another. So this is only half of my point. Now I need the y value. So the last column, we're going to solve for the remaining, variable. And the equation that I'm going to want to use is this y equals 6x minus 11, because this is going to be the easiest equation for me to figure out what y is. I'm going to substitute 2 for x. So it's going to be y equals 6, and instead of x, it's going to be 2, since that's what I found out here, minus 11. At this point, if your math is not all up to par, just type this in the calculator as is, okay? And then it will give me y equals 6 times 2 is 12. 12 minus 11 is 1. So my solution, or the point of intersection between these two lines, is 2, 1. That's where they intersect each other, okay?
That's easier.
Well, we're going to do that today. But because we're going to be looking at a quadratic and a linear equation and where they intersect, there's 2 intersections, right? So we're going to have a 4th step and not just 3. But it's going to be very similar to what we just did. So that brings me to the other thing we need a kind of refresher on, and that is factoring. So, factoring, if I take and we're not just factoring, but we're going to solve by factoring. So if you think you're going to have to retake a test, then you probably want to write this down, because this was on your last test. Alright, so to factor, let's talk about how we factor. Well, first of all, our leading coefficient here is 1. How do I know that? Because at the beginning, I have x squared and there's no number in front. So that means my leading coefficient is 1. And that makes life so much easier when it comes to factoring, is when there's no number in front of this x squared. Because all I know, the very first thing I'm going to do is draw 2 sets of parentheses. And each one of them is going to start with x. Because x times x gives me that x squared, right? Alright, now comes the hard part of factoring. So when we factor, we are looking for factors. Remember, factors are numbers that you multiply together. Factors of the last term. What's the last term in this quadratic? 8. Negative 8. Factors of the last term that add up to the middle term. Okay? This only happens, you get to do this only when your leading coefficient is 1, okay? It's that easy. And you're like, Miss Sullivan, that's not that easy. Alright, so our last term is negative 8, and we're looking for numbers that multiply to give us this, but add up to negative 2. Alright, so I'm just going to write out factors of 8 first. I always start with 1, so 1 times 8. Okay, the next one would be 2 times 4, correct? Is there any other factors that go into 8? No. So, but if I multiply these give me positive 8, not a negative 8. So one of them have to be negative. Then they have to add up to give me a negative 2. So because it adds up to be a negative 2, my bigger numbers are going to be negative. Because 1 plus negative 8 is negative 7. Well, I don't want that, because I need it to equal negative 2, right? 2 plus negative 4 gives me negative 2. So that's the one I want. And I'm going to put that here and here. So that's factoring. Done factoring. Now, to solve, I'm going to take each factor and set it equal to 0 and solve for x. Remember this? So x equals, what plus 2 equals 0? Negative 2. It's just going to be the opposite of what you see here, right? And what minus 4 gives me 0? A positive 4. So here are my solutions right there. Everybody okay with that? All right, let's get to our notes then. If I can find them. Oh, right. Okay. So you're on the back of the first page of our notes. All right. So like I told you before, we are going to have, as you can see, there's 4 steps to solving these quadratic and linear systems. We're still looking for the possibly two points of intersection. There could be one, and there could be none, right? So if you remember from last time, these could be our solutions. You could have 2 where it intersects twice. You could have 1 where it only intersects the problem once, or none. All right, let's go. So first off, we are going to rearrange one equation into y equals. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Now, a lot of the times this could be done for us already. Is this done for us if you look at these 2 equations?
The linear one.
The linear one is? So that is, it's y equals 6x minus 5. So the second equation already has y by itself. Don't want me to call you out on video. So hush, so don't do that, please. Okay. So step 1's been done. Yes, don't have to do any extra work here. Now step 2, it says substitute the y equals for y and the other equation. All right. So we're going to substitute y equals for y into other equation. Okay? Bless you. So the other equation is 2y equals x squared plus 6x minus 2, right? And we're going to substitute 6x minus 5 for y over here. So where I see y, that's what I'm going to substitute in. So I have 2, and instead of y, I'm going to replace that with 6x minus 5 equals x squared plus 6x minus 2. All right, y'all good? So now we just now we're just going to solve, and if you notice, all we have is x left. So, but before I can solve, what do I need to do right here?
You just distribute it.
Yeah, I need to distribute. So 2 times 6x is 12x. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Then everything over here to the right stays the same. Now what I mean by solve, what I truly mean, is that, notice I have a quadratic, right? How do I know this is a quadratic?
X squared.
I have x squared, that's right, to the second power. What I want to do is get one of the sides of the equal sign, or the equation, sorry, equal to 0. So the easiest side would probably be the left, because I only have to move 2 terms. Because the right, I have to move 3 over to the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 10 to both sides first. So that I get 12x equals x squared plus 6x minus 2. and then I'm going to subtract 12x.
You need plus 8?
Oh, I do. Thank you. Plus 8. I'm putting it underneath each terms that I'm moving over, put it underneath its like term, okay? Now I have 0 equals x squared. 6, positive 6x minus 12x is a negative 6x. Bring down the plus 8. That's all I want to do in this column. I'm done. When I get to here, when I get equals 0, I'm done in this column. So I'm going to go to my third. Third says solve by factoring or quadratic formula. For us, we're just going to solve by factoring, because I know we can factor this equation. So I'm going to put this here. 0 equals x squared minus 6x plus 8. Alright, so set up my two sets of parentheses. Both are going to start with x. I'm looking for factors of positive 8 that add up to negative 6. Factors of positive 8
Negative 2 and negative 4.
that add up to negative 6. So yeah, both, since this is positive and it has to add up to a negative, they both have to be negative. And out of those, the negative 2, negative 4 add up to negative 6, but multiply to give me positive 8. And now we're going to solve for x by setting each factor equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0, and x minus 4 equals 0. So x equals, what minus 2 equals 0? 2. And what minus 4 equals 0? 4. So here are my two values for x. Remember, so evidently, since I have two different numbers for x, this line intersects the parabola twice. Okay? I know that for sure. And I could graph it if I wanted to see. Now, last but not least, because since we're looking for points, what do I have to find now? I found x. What do I have to find? The y. I have to find the y. And I'm going to use this equation here. So we're going to substitute. So here's subbing again. Each number for x into y equals. And that's from the first column. So we're using this equation here. So I'm going to make two different ones. One's going to be y equals 6 times 2 minus 5. The other one's going to be y equals 6 times 4 minus 5. Oh, I'm running out of room. There we go. Minus 5.
Would it not be the 12x minus 10? Or is that for the other one?
Where are you seeing 12x minus, oh, right here?
Yeah, is
That
it only for that one or is it for both of them?
12x minus 10 is just for, oh, that was when we used the distributive property.
So it's only for that one?
Yeah, yeah. Alright, so now let's figure out what y is. So 6 times 2 is 12. 12 minus 5? 7. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 minus 5? Okay, so my y values are 7 and 19. I need to write my solutions down. My solutions are, so when x is 2, what is my y value? 7. And The other point that they intersect at, when x is 4, y is 19. And those are my solutions. Do you like the columns? Or do you want to see one without using all those columns? Without? Okay, let's do that. That's what we're going to do on example 5. So,
does it matter, like, if I put the, cause I'll put the 4 and the 2 and the 4, I'll put the 4 first.
that's, oh, you put 419, you mean right here?
No,
in this?
I'm talking about on the solve box.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay.
So what,
As long as you get these as your solutions, you're fine.
yeah, but how do I know which one goes to which then? Well, I just do.
Oh, because when I substituted 2 for x and I solved for y, I got 7.
Oh, so
That's why. That's how I know.
Yes, whichever.
You substituted what x value you substituted for x to solve for y.
it goes with that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Good question, though. I'm sure you're not the only one. All right, guys. So I'm going to use these same steps that you have up here to solve number 5. And I'm going to, what color do y'all like? Purple, pink, or this kind of green color?
Purple.
Purple? Okay, I'll use purple since you're the only one that answered. Oh, that's animation. Sorry, guys. Oops. Alright. So I can see here step 1 has been done for me. I can see that y equals x plus 1. So in this equation here, where it says y, I'm going to put x plus 1. So actually, I kind of, step 1 was done for me. This is going into step 2 here. Substituting the y equals for y in the other equation. That's what I just did, step 2. What? Now I need to solve. So, but remember, to solve, I have to make sure one side equals 0. I gotta make sure the other side is simplified. So I gotta do all that first. I have parentheses here, but there's nothing in front of it, so there's no distributive property. I also need to put this in order. So, like, this negative x squared should go first. And then I should put plus x, because that's positive x, and a plus 1 equals 1. So I just rearranged it so that it's in the form it needs to be in. X squared always goes first. The x term goes second, and the term without x goes last, always. Okay?
That's the ABC.
Yeah, ax squared plus by, ax squared plus bx plus c, yes. Okay, so standard form. So here we go. So now what we need to do is get this equals 0. Well, for this equals 0, I'd have to subtract 1 from both sides. So now I'm going to get negative x squared plus x equals 0.
Bro, these birds is getting on my nerves.
I know. Alright, the next thing is that I can never start my quadratic with a negative. So I'm going to change all this to its opposite. Opposite of negative x squared is positive x squared, right? Opposite of positive x is negative x. Equals, now if this was a number other than 0, I would have to change that as well, but 0's negative, neither negative nor positive, is it? So it's just 0 still. Alright, now it says solve by factoring, but here's the issue. We're not going to factor like normal because I have two terms. So there's a couple of things I can look at. One, in these two terms, can I factor something out? Is there a greatest common factor for those two terms? I know they're both x's, but a variable can be a greatest common factor. What's the greatest common factor for x squared and x?
1.
1 what? 1x. So I can take out an x, or divide each of these by x. And if I divide each term by x, what's left over? So x squared divided by x is?
X.
And negative x divided by x?
It's supposed to be negative x.
Nope, it's 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. So now I have two factors. I have x and x minus 1. Isn't that what I'm multiplying together right here? X and x minus 1? So I'm going to set each of those equal to 0. So x equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. This one is already solved for, correct? This one is not. What does x need to equal? What minus 1 equals 0? 1. So here are my two values for x. Now let's find my two values for y by substituting into that first equation up here. So I'm going to have two equations. So I'm going to use, so one of them is going to be y equals, instead of x, I'm going to put 0 plus 1. Whoops, plus 1. The other equation is going to be y equals 1 plus 1. So y is going to equal 1 and y is going to equal 2. So what are
Whenever you substitute the x values
for the x and solve for y?
Wait,
Yeah.
Wait, is this the same thing as the thing up top?
Uh-huh.
But this way is just nasty.
Well, this way, because you ended up with two terms, so you'd factor it differently. That's why it's probably throwing you off a little bit.
So you could do this the same way you did the top way?
Uh-huh. But it would be the same thing. You would see all these same steps, except they'd be in those columns instead. So what are my solutions? 0. When x is 0, what's my y?
1.
And my other one is when x is 1, y is 2. So these are my solutions. Alright. I'm just going to draw a line right here so we can do the next problem. Let's do this next problem. Is step 1 already done for us?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, equation 1 is starts with y equals, okay? So we're good to go. So we're going to substitute this right here, x squared minus 2x plus 3 for y in that second equation. So my second equation is 2x plus, and instead of y, we're going to put x squared minus 2x plus 3.
You gotta keep it in parentheses.
I do. I keep it in parentheses because it's easier.
That way at least
You know what you substituted. Okay, and if I have to use the distributive property, then I'm able to see that. If I don't have to, I'm able to see that as well. Like this one, I have a plus sign in front of the parentheses. It doesn't change anything. So I really don't need parentheses, but it's okay that it doesn't make any difference that it's there. Yes, Ryan? Huh? You can use the quadratic formula for all of these. You don't have to factor. Quadratic formula will give you your same solutions for x.
If you
Okay.
use the quadratic formula, it comes out to be a neat number, and it's not like
You could have been
Yeah,
factored.
and like you could have and that's all you have to do. If it comes out to be like stupid, then you have to do this.
Yes.
So just don't try to colonial first to see if you can skip this.
Yeah, you can't do that. Or, well, not skip this, but you'd have to
do this.
Yeah, not have to factor it. Alright, here we go, guys. So, because I don't have to use distributive property, I'm going to combine like terms. So my like terms are 2x and negative 2x. What's going to happen to those? They cancel each other out. See you later, 2x's. The only thing left over is x squared plus 3 is equal to 1. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm down to 2 variables, or 2 terms. I'm going to get it set it equal to 0. So to do that, I have to subtract 1 from both sides. I get x squared plus 2 is equal to 0. Well, guys, am I able to factor this in any way? I mean, let's see, it doesn't have it's not 3 terms, so I'm not going to factor it with the parentheses.
Teachers, at this time, the seniors are making their way back to your classrooms. They should be there shortly. The presentation is over, and seniors will report back to their third block class.
And then, second of all, does it do they have like terms?
Seniors report to second block.
So they don't have like terms, so because they don't both have an x and they both are not divisible by 2. Okay, only one of them is. So the third thing that we could do is solve by square roots. Okay, so when you solve by the square root, using the square root method, you're going to solve by using the square root method. And remember, with that method, you're just trying to get x squared by itself. So what do I do to get x squared by itself?
Square root.
How do I get the x squared by itself? How do I get this by itself? Just subtract 2. So I end up having x squared is equal to negative 2. And then how do I get, what am I going to do to x squared to find x? Square root. Here's this one. Well, the square root of x squared is x, because these cancel each other out, right? So I get x is equal to, I have this one here, this is negative 1 times 2 underneath, right? And it's going to be positive or negative. So x is going to equal, guys, square root of negative 1 times square root of 2. What's the square root of negative 1? What is that? Do you remember?
1.
It's I.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's okay. And we did all that to prove there is no real solution. There's an imaginary one. Remember, I means imaginary. But there's not a real one. I'll tell you in a second. Okay, any questions? So, this is what you're going to do. On your assignment packet, it's right here. On your assignment packet, go to the first page, right here. And you're going to work on numbers 2, 4, and 6. 2, 4, and 6. Those are the 3 that you are working on. You have 33 minutes to work on this, so you should be able to get those done. 11 minutes each. Okay? Work on these because you're going to find something a little different on number 2 and number 6. It's not hard. It's just you're going to see something. You're like, wait a minute. All right, that is it.